Hello, this is Mark, and I am thinking about doing another season replay using Sports Illustrated Baseball, and I am thinking about doing 1971 World Champion Pittsburgh Pirates. When I was a kid, the 1971 game was the one that I played. That's the game that's based on the 1971 season. That's the only one I had in the beginning, and I played it a lot, and I liked it, I think, better than the 1972 season because of the colorful team charts instead of the little paper cards that 1972 had. So before I do that season replay, I thought I would check the accuracy of Sports Illustrated Baseball using the 1971 Pittsburgh Pirates. And the way that I did it, I will explain hopefully carefully so that anyone who sees a flaw in my logic can point it out. So what you're looking at right now is the 1971 Pittsburgh Pirates. This isn't a picture of the game chart itself, but it's what my program that I wrote generates when I ask it to look at a team chart. So there's the Pirates. Anyone who plays Sports Illustrated Baseball knows that each player has two lines, one against left-handed pitcher, one against right-handed pitcher, and in the lines there's outs and strikeouts and hits and errors and all those kind of things. Some people have walks, some people have hit by pitches, but there are not very many of those. Those are the yellow ones. You can see there's only a few. So those are the batters. Now, the way the game played, of course, is that you roll the dice on the pitcher card and the pitcher data, and then the pitcher determines the result sometimes, but most of the time it goes to the batter's card or data, and then you roll it again. So here's what the pitchers look like. And what the pitchers can do, the way Sports Illustrated dice, you roll between 10 and 39, and each number has a certain amount of chance of coming up out of the 216 possible 3D6 dice, that you're playing with. So you can see that on this chart that there's different colors, and if you see a green color that doesn't have a 1+ in it, that means you roll the dice for the batter. If you see a green box with a D in it, that means it might be a defensive outstanding play based on the other team's total defensive rating. So that might be an out. Or if it's not an out, then you roll the batter's dice. If you see a green box with a 1+, that means the batter gets a single. He doesn't roll the dice. He just gets a single. If you see a yellow box, that is a walk. There's sometimes wild pitches in here and balks and things like that too. But that doesn't really affect the batter because the runners move up and then you do it again for the same batter. So that we ignore that. Red box here is an out that the batter doesn't get to have a chance on. Blue box is a strikeout that the batter doesn't get a chance on. And then the yellow X is the pitcher's X chart, which could turn out to be a wild pitch or a balk or pass ball or a hit by pitch. So only the hit by pitch affects the batter because he doesn't get to swing the bat. He doesn't get to roll the dice. The other ones, the runners move up and then the batters roll the dice. So what I did is I figured out, based on all the pitchers in the National League except Pirates, how often a out would be done by the pitcher, how often a walk would be done by the pitcher, how often a single would be done by the pitcher, and how often a pitcher would hit the batter with a pitch. And I also figured out, based on all the defensive ratings of the other teams except the Pirates, how often a defensive outstanding play would happen in one of those Ds, the 10 through 15. And I'll show you the logic that I used to do that. And once I figured all that out, then I knew how often the batter will roll the dice. So then I applied that to the batter line versus lefty versus righty to see what his batting average would be and what his home runs would be. So let's start looking at the data that I generated. So let's start with defense. So over here, these are the 12 teams in the National League 1971. What I did is I went through each team and found the player that played the catcher the most, the first base the most, second base the most, and that, so on and so forth. And then I figured out what their total defensive rating would be with those players in, and that's what this column B is. 37, 14, 31. That would be the defensive rating of the other team. And you can see how that correlates to the numbers. So if the Cubs were playing with their normal, most often played with lineup, their defensive rating would be 37. If the Cubs pitcher rolled a 12 or 13, then that would be an automatic ground out. So a 12 and a 13 is 9 chances out of the 216 of the rolls that the pitcher does. So what I did is I went and added all these numbers up, and then I averaged them. I took out the Pirates because they're not going to play themselves. So I averaged them, and then I figured out how many chances an average team playing the Pirates would have to get an outstanding out, and the answer was 6 rolls out of 216 would be an outstanding out. So those 6 rolls had to be taken away from the batter's results. Okay, then I looked at the pitchers, and here's all the pitchers. I have a program that can pull out the data on every SI card player and figure out how many outs the pitcher has, how many rolls the pitcher would have an out, how many rolls the pitcher would have a walk or hit by pitch, how many rolls the pitchers would give up a single, because those are the ones that are important, when I look at the batter results. And what I did was I looked at all the left-handed pitching and all the right-handed pitching, and I normalized for the number of innings pitched. So Ken Holtzman pitched 195 innings in 1971. His card has 0 outs in it. It has 14 rolls out of 216 that would be a walk or hit by pitch, and he has 10 rolls that would be a single on his card. So out of the 216, there would be the defensive outs of 6, which is up here. Here's the 6. Then, for Ken Holtzman, there would be 14 more that would be a walk or hit by pitch, so the batter doesn't get to roll there. It's not even an at-bat. And then there would be 10 that would be a single. So what I did is I took all this data for all the pitchers, and I normalized it to the number of innings pitched. So the pitcher that pitched more innings would impact this total more. And here's the normalized numbers over here. So since he pitched 195 innings instead of 14 out of 216, his individual would be 0.6 out of 216, and his individual would be 0.43 out of 216. So I take all the left-handed pitchers, all these guys, all the way down to there, and I add them all up, normalize to the number of innings pitched, and the result is 6 times out of 216, when facing a left-handed pitcher, there would be an out from the pitcher. 15 times there would be a walk or hit by pitch, and 5 times the pitcher would give a single. So those are important numbers, and I did the same thing for right-handed. So here's all the right-handed pitchers, and if you go down all the way to the bottom and you add up the normalized results, you'll see that against right-handed pitchers, 8 rolls out of 216 on average would be an out, 15 would be a walk or hit by pitch, and 4 would be a single. So those numbers, I'll go back up to the top of my spreadsheet, are important because here is what I have. So the left-handed pitcher, the defensive outs would be 6 out of 216, and then the pitcher outs there is 6 pitcher outs out of 216, 15 pitcher walks or hits by pitches, and 5 pitcher singles. So all those cases, the batter doesn't get to roll the dice. There's one other case where the batter doesn't get to roll the dice, and that's if the pitcher rolls a X. A pitcher's X chart, which looks like this. This over here on the left is the pitcher's X chart, and what you do is if you roll a 38, every pitcher has the same number, then you roll the dice again to find out if there was a pass ball or a wild pitch or a balk or a hit by pitch. So wild pitch, pass balls, and balks don't matter because you start over and the batter gets another chance. But if you roll a 38 and then you roll anything between 27 and 32, that's a hit by pitch, and the batter does not get to roll the dice. So I have to add that in, and that is 1.08 rolls out of 216 of a pitcher on average will be a pitcher's X hit by pitch. So what I did then is I took the defensive outs that a pitcher could get, the pitcher's X hit by pitch that a pitcher could get, the outs that a pitcher could do, the base on balls and the hit by pitches that a pitcher could do, and the singles a pitcher could give up. So for a left-handed pitcher, that turns out to be 33.08 rolls out of 216. The Pirates facing left-handed pitchers, the pitcher would cause the result, and the batter would not get to roll. And then against a right-handed pitcher, it's 34.08. So that's that. And then I just based it on percentages here. This section down here below that has all these percentages are just 6 out of 216 is 2.78%, 1.08 is 0.5%, and so on. So I went across there, then I added them up. So a pitcher would 5.56% of the time, if the pitcher's left-handed in 1971 and not a Pirate, would make an out. Batter doesn't get to roll. 7.44% of the time, the pitcher would cause a walk or a hit by pitch, and 2.31% of the time, a pitcher would cause a single. So 15.31% of the time, a pitcher is going to determine the result of the batter if it is a Pirate batter and any other left-handed pitcher pitching in the National League. So those are important numbers, 15.31 and 15.78. So then I went to the Pirates batting. And Manny Sanguillen, like I said before, they have a left-handed versus right-handed in Sports Illustrated Baseball. So I went and looked at Manny Sanguillen and said, just looking at his batter row, I said 139 of the 216 when he rolls the dice are outs. 77 of the 216 when he rolls the dice are hits, and 4 out of 216 when he rolls the dice are home runs. Then I looked at the 15.31% of the time that if Manny Sanguillen is facing a left-handed pitcher, it will be determined by the pitcher. So I reduced the numbers on Manny Sanguillen's card, his data, by 15.31%. And the 139 turned to 118, the 77 turned to 65, and the 4 home runs turned to 3 home runs. Then you got to think about, okay, that's when he rolls the dice, he gets that amount of hits and home runs and outs. But what about when the pitcher determines it? And this is the same for the left-handed pitchers that we looked at before. 6 are defensive out, 6 are pitcher outs, 15 are walks or hit by pitches, and 5 are a single for the batter. So then I added the batter reduced by pitcher result to batter results when he gets a chance to roll the dice, and the pitcher results when the pitcher determines the outcome of the play. So I added those together, and I have this. I have 130 rolls would be outs for Manny Sanguillen. 15 will be hit by pitch or walk. 70 would be hits, and 3 would be home runs. The 215 is all of them except the pitcher X card. So I don't know why I took the pitcher X card out to add those up, but that was just my making sure that I had 216 results on each card. So then I took those numbers and I went down here and I said Manny Sanguillen versus a left-hander, 130 rolls would be out, 15 would be a walk or hit by pitch, 70 would be a hit, and 3 would be a home run. So with that, it was easy to figure out what his batting average is. It's easily 70 divided by 216. And you can figure out how often he had a home run. That's 3 divided by 216. So 70 divided by 216 is his game batting average, 351. And the red number is his actual batting average against a left-handed pitcher in 1971. So 351 is the game, Sports Illustrated, and 347 is the actual. Then I went over here and looked at the game, home runs per at-bats, .017. Then I looked at the actual number of at-bats versus a lefty and the actual number of homers versus a lefty. And it is 4 divided by 233 is .017. So that matches up exactly. And then I looked at Manny Sanguillen against a righty, Bob Robertson against a lefty, Bob Robertson against a righty, and so on and so forth. And I looked at all these numbers here to see how close the Blues were to the Reds. And they were pretty close. I mean, they're not exact, but they're pretty close all the way down. All the way down. There was a couple that are a little bit off. And those are, let's see, where did I see those ones that were a little off? Jose Pagan is a little bit off. Oh, Rennie Stennett's a little bit off against the righty. The game is only 306, but in real life he was 384. But most of Milt May against the lefty is a little off. The game is 224, and his real life was 264. So I don't know whether they make some kind of adjustment or they just didn't do it exactly right when they made those cards. So that is my conclusion: is that Sports Illustrated Baseball is pretty realistic when you take into account what the pitchers could do on average against the Pirates and what the Pirates batters will do when the pitcher does not determine the result or the defense does not determine the result. It's pretty close. Milt May's home runs are a little bit off, 0.025 versus 0.53. Both of them are a little bit low. Milt May needs more home runs, and he needs more hits against the lefty. But most of these are pretty good. Let's look at some of the big time players. Here's Willie Stargell against the lefty. It's .06 homers versus .059, and it's .114 against the righty versus .117. So he should hit 48 home runs, or pretty close to it, if he bats the right number of times. His batting average is in real life was .243 against lefties, and in the game it's .251 against righties. In the average real life it's .330, and in the game it's .325. So this is my conclusion: is that Sports Illustrated Baseball guys, when they made these cards, made these charts back in 1972, without the help of personal computers or anything like that. I don't know how they did it. If they had a big mini computer, or used time on a mainframe or something like that, or just did it by hand with calculators and paper and pencil. They did it pretty closely. I give them credit for that. And with that, I will end this video. And the next video you'll see might be game one of my season replay of the 1971 Pittsburgh Pirates. So that hopefully is a tiny bit of interest, and hopefully you could follow what I did. And if you see something flawed in my logic, make a comment, because I'm interested to see if I might have missed something or did something wrong. So with that, I will sign off.